Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking a highly charged political claim about our nation's tech infrastructure. Now, to be totally clear, we're not here to debate the politics. Not at all. We are simply here to dissect the anatomy of the claim itself. How exactly is the argument built? What specific language is being deployed? Let's get right into it.
Catastrophic left-wing infrastructure failure, end quote. Wow. I mean, that immediately sets the temperature for the entire message, doesn't it? Notice the absolute intensity of those words. The author isn't just saying, hey, a policy didn't work out. Nope. They're framing it as a catastrophic event and explicitly tying this alleged failure to a specific political ideology, left-wing. By starting our explainer with this exact quote, we can instantly spot the rhetorical strategy at play here. The source is establishing a dramatic narrative of crisis right out of the gate. It's framing the issue not just as your standard policy debate, but as a severe partisan breakdown.
To truly understand the weight of this language, we've got to look at the source. We're looking at a social media post on X, specifically from an account linked to former President Trump. When a high-profile political figure uses this kind of intense, fiery framing, well, it's designed to broadcast a very specific narrative to a massive audience. So let's look at exactly how that narrative is constructed.
Section 1. Accusations against New York.
According to the source text, the primary target of this criticism is New York Governor Kathy Hochul. The text states that Donald Trump blasted the governor. Again, remember we're just looking at the mechanics of the claim here as neutral observers. By naming the governor directly, the source text centers the responsibility for this alleged infrastructure failure entirely on one single state leader. It completely personalizes the policy. It's not just some faceless bureaucracy making a decision right. In the narrative constructed by the text, it's a specific political opponent taking direct action. This is actually a really classic rhetorical technique to make an abstract policy dispute feel much, much more direct and accountable to the reader.
So the crucial point is the exact accusation being made against the governor within New York State. The text claims she is, quote, politically terminating all current and future data center construction. Now look closely at the deliberate use of the word politically here. The source doesn't claim the construction was halted for, say, environmental reasons or zoning issues or even budget constraints. By inserting the word politically, the text asserts that the termination of these data centers is purely a partisan maneuver. Plus, the phrasing all current and future, that paints a picture of an absolute, uncompromising blockade. This kind of language is custom designed to maximize the perceived severity of the governor's alleged actions.
Section 2. Defining the digital assets. Now, what's really interesting here is the metaphor they use. The source defines data centers not as, buzzing servers or massive cooling fans, but simply as digital money machines. It completely strips away the complex IT jargon and equates this infrastructure directly with raw capital. I mean, to the average reader, a data center might sound super abstract or totally irrelevant to their daily life. But a money machine? Everyone understands the value of a money machine. The text is basically ensuring the audience gets that losing these centers is a massive financial blow.
The post elaborates on what these machines actually produce. It claims they represent liquid gold in taxes and bring record-setting jobs. Notice the parallel there? Liquid gold is historically a term used for oil, a foundational, massive wealth-generating resource. By applying this specific phrase to the taxes generated by data centers, digital infrastructure is literally elevated to the level of a critical natural resource. And by pairing that with record-setting jobs, the author makes the economic windfall feel super tangible for the everyday citizen. It frames this whole narrative as losing out on an unprecedented economic jackpot. Section 3. The claimed economic migration.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast the argument sets up. On one side, you have New York, allegedly terminating construction. On the other side, you have what the text explicitly labels as business-friendly states. The author uses the word fleeing to describe the movement of these data centers from one side to the other. Now, fleeing implies a desperate escape from a hostile environment to a booming one, right? By juxtaposing the alleged policy of New York against the destination states, the text perfectly mirrors the narrative tension it just built, a self-inflicted crisis in one region leading directly to an absolute boom in another.
The narrative doesn't just leave these destinations as some vague concept either. It names names: Alabama, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. By listing specific states, the claim gives the reader a literal mental map of this supposed economic transfer. In the context of the political rhetoric we've been analyzing today, these four states are framed as the clear geographical winners, basically scooping up the liquid gold and record-setting jobs that the text claims New York just threw away. And honestly, this neatly wraps up the anatomy of the political claim. We have a stated crisis, a blamed individual, a highly valued asset, and a stark divide of winners and losers.
So, stepping back from the specific rhetoric for a second, this whole thing leaves us with a massive real-world question. How will state policies shape the future map of digital infrastructure? I mean, the underlying concept here is that the physical location of our digital world is entirely subject to local political and economic climates. Are we going to see a whole new geographical clustering of tech based entirely on state lines? It's definitely something to ponder. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and remember, keep asking questions.